Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to try to do a very quick card, but very effective, utilizing some good techniques here that can be applicable to different types of media. I'm going to be doing this one on a cheap piece of Recollections foil. I say cheap in terms of expense. It's a great material to utilize. This is a quarter size piece of their full-size 8.5 by 11 sheets. They come in multicolored packs. They also come in dedicated packs of color, but I think their colored ones are all in multicolored, but I can't be sure about that because I forgot. They have a lot of metallics and things like that, and I think those are in dedicated packs of 25 single-color sheets, but these ones are typically in packs of 5 different colors, 5 sheets each. Very inexpensive, especially when they're on sale, and they're on sale all the time. Okay, now what I've done is I've given this a little bit of a matting ahead of time, and I've taped this down, or glued it down to that. Just a thin white layer so that I can mat this, or mount this, on this other larger piece right here. I could have made this into a folding card, but I'm just making it into kind of a postcard format here. So that should expedite the process, but let's get started here. Okay, I'm going to be doing some sponged clouds, okay? So you can treat this like you would a template almost, okay? Well, it is a template. It's just a soft form template, okay? And we're going to do this white pigment ink, okay? Now, on this type of foil, I'm using Brilliance inks, okay? The Brilliance inks are going to be able to dry on this type of foil without any problem. And you'll see how that's done with some heat setting here. Okay, now here's what I'm doing here in terms of this technique. This is what you need to know, okay? What I'm doing is I'm giving a kind of thicker application. I'm not trying to do it in one tap or anything like that, but I'm building it up a little bit higher like that, or thicker, right next to my edge of the template, okay? That's about the width of that cotton ball here. But then what you do is you just take this away, and then you kind of smooth this out, okay? Now you want to go with kind of a drier cotton ball. You don't want this totally loaded with ink, okay? I mean, once you get the feel of it, mine's kind of loaded right now because I just re-inked my pad. But so I'm using a lighter tap. And then what I'm doing is I'm kind of, what you don't see me doing is it's kind of loaded up right here. And then what I'm doing is I'm kind of transitioning it a little bit down here, okay, where I'm transitioning that ink off out here. Now, I mean, sometimes I over ink my pieces all the time, okay, but this ink is really great. It doesn't dry so fast that you can't kind of just blend it out and smooth it around, okay, and you can remove ink, okay. It's fast drying ink, but it's not going to dry super fast on this. We're going to have to heat set it on foil, okay? If you're using Brilliance ink on a matte cardstock, it's going to dry pretty fast because it's going to be absorbing as well as evaporating in terms of the drying process, okay? All right, so I'm going above my cloud here now, you know, where that template was, okay? I'm getting a little bit blotchy, so I'm going to... If you get a little bit blotchy, what you do is you just kind of stay in that area a little bit longer, just to kind of blend it out and to get more repetition down here. And what you'll see with this now, so you just kind of have to keep going. You kind of keep working it. Don't kind of get alarmed if you put 2 taps down and it's like, oh my God, I got a bunch of blobs or something like that. You just kind of keep moving it around. It's like this smudgy little medium on here that you just kind of keep moving around, okay? And we have something like that, and you get this kind of nice soft application. Look how nice that is, and it almost looks, you know, I don't know, kind of natural in many ways, okay? All right, now, let's see, maybe I'll heat set that a little bit. Better safe than sorry. I am going to stamp an impression right over the top of that with some more white ink, okay? Going for kind of a wintry look here. Okay, now the reason why I dried that is because I feel that I have a better chance of a nice clean impression if this is dry, okay? If it's wet and I'm stamping wet, thick wet ink into thick wet ink, okay, I might not get the transfer of this impression on here as well as it can be if this was dry, okay? So wet into wet, you know, it can kind of create this kind of vacuum effect where you stamp into it and you pull it off and then it, you know, the ink comes right off with it, okay? All right, so I'm going to be using the Lakeside Cove here. I'm going to be doing some live broadcasts here pretty soon, in addition to some Zoom types of workshops, live workshops, and we'll be utilizing the Nature set number 8. So I wanted to use this one on this piece right here. And what I'm doing here, now most people are buying the unmounted, so you are not going to be see this this indexing on top of like cling foam or unmounted rubber. But what I'm doing here is there's a lot of tone right underneath here, and that's there for a reason. Let's say if we stamp this, most of the times we're stamping this in black or something like that, or in greens or whatever, dark colors, and we're stamping it out. I want to be able to transition this tone out on the water, okay? But sometimes, like on something like this, I might not want that tone to be there. Sometimes when I stamp it out dark, I don't want it to be there, okay? But it's there in case we need it, or in case we want to do a transition. If it's there, then we can just avoid stamping it. But if it's not there, you can't really add it in, you know, without, you know, extra effort. So that's why it's there, okay? All right, so I'm stamping this. I'm going to have some of this, these trees going up into that cloud. You know, if you stamp it lower or higher, it doesn't matter. Wherever you want it to go is fine. If you stamp it lower in the composition, then you'll have more sky. If you stamp it higher in the composition, you can do more things in the water, like reflections, things like that. Reflections tend to be very dramatic looking, and it's really fun to bring kind of your sky elements down onto the water's surface in a mirrored type of, I don't know, whatever composition. All right. Or you can do it halfway, so you know, you get an equal amount of, you know, surface and sky. All right, so adding this in, like I said, I don't, you know, most of the times I'm stamping this in dark colors, but I think it's pretty dramatic on the foil in that reversed out look. Look at that right there. You see that cloud in there? It almost looks like, I don't know, some kind of wispy type of fog too, or something like that. Okay, one thing about the technical thing about the Brilliance inks is that it is one of the few water-based pigment inks, okay? I think most of them are oil. It was kind of funny. I was looking at a National Stamper graphic, and they were talking about the different inks, and they were talking about how pigment inks are water-based. I'm thinking, I wonder if there were some water-based ones that came out back in the, I don't know, like the mid-90s or something like that. Clear Snap was the one that I could think of, and that one was not water-based as far as I know. The color box ones. But I don't know. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to use a quote stamp in here. Quote stamps can add a sense of drama and certainly a visual focal point. Maybe not a visual landing point, but someone will always read the words that are in your pieces. They might read it and kind of go on to it and, you know, go on to, like, say, if you have a fisherman or, you know, canoeist in there or something like that, you know, that would be the landing point, okay? Or if you have just something more dramatic, like maybe I was thinking about doing a North Star type of thing in this piece. But let's see how it goes here. Okay, so again, I'm just doing this in white, okay? With letter forms too, I spent a little bit more time inking this up, just trying to make sure that I have an even amount of ink. You know, pigment inks are pretty thick, so you can have kind of a much thicker application in one area, but just look at it here and just make sure that you don't have your letter forms kind of filled in, like in the E's or O's or something like that. The closed lettering, okay? If you see it kind of clogged up, in your inking of the stamp, it might transfer to your impression. Okay? All right, let's see how we're doing here. We're at the 10-minute mark. Okay, we're moving along. It's not too bad. All right, now let's see here. I want this card to be very, very quick in terms of the process, but I want it dense in terms of the different looks and textures that we're going after. I want it full of visual variety and appeal, okay? All right, so this is my Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. You can use a white paint pen or a white gel pen to do this too. It'll take a little bit longer and you won't get kind of the variation of a spray pattern, but I think white gel pens and whatnot, paint pens, look absolutely fantastic. I use those for years. Okay, so we're going to do a little spray pattern on here. I just put the paint in the tip of this, okay? I didn't load up the whole thing. That would just be way too much, and we don't need that. All right, so I am doing some spray pattern. I'm going to try not to get too much onto my quote stamp there. I got a little bit in there, maybe a little bit too much, but I stopped, okay, in time, I think. Okay, so this can represent snow, it can represent stars. If I put a little bit more, I think it would look a little bit more snowy. If you use a little bit less, I think it looks a little bit more like stars, okay? All right, so we have this. Now, this makes for a really great texture next to that little soft texture, doesn't it? Okay. Now, one of the things we can do, I mean, I could have brought some of that cloud texture down here in the water too, okay? And I think that would look really cool to have this mirrored type of effect. But I'm just making this to be nice and fast in terms of our overall piece here. Okay, so I'm taking my white paint pen. Let's see, maybe I should have shook this up beforehand. I want this to be a really peaceful looking scene here, so I'm going to keep it fairly minimal, okay? Not minimal in terms of kind of visual interest, though, but minimal in terms of just overall visual kind of a volume, I guess you can say. So, that being said, I put a little dot here. Let me see if I can zoom in here. And I'm going to do this little check mark like that, okay? I get out of practice doing this star, you know. If you do like 3 or 4 of these, you can practice it on a piece of foil or cardstock, you know, dark cardstock. Just do it, and then just wipe it off and do it again, and just until you get the feel of it. Okay, now I'm putting my hand right over here. I don't want to put my hand in that because I haven't heat set that yet, but... All right, I got that one right there. Okay, now here's a little tip. This is portrait, okay, it's a longer piece, so I'm going to do that star longer on the ascender and descender kind of point of this, what'll be an 8-point star, okay? So I'll make these arms a little bit shorter, okay? All right, so that's the crosshairs right there, but now I'll do these little intermediate little tweaks like this, okay? I'll make them shorter. And there, we have our kind of North Star type of thing, okay? And I think that really adds kind of this nice, I don't know, kind of peaceful, spiritual type of look to it. Okay, now I'm going to come in here and add in some extra stars, okay? This will give me a little bit more variation in terms of star size, okay? All right, then we have that. Okay. Remember, this is all wet still, okay? Not the cloud in the background that I heat set, but fairly moist. And, okay, let's get some, I don't know, 2 or 3 stars maybe. Let's do that after. Okay, I learned to do this. I figured this out the other day. let's heat set this, and then I'll add in a couple crystals. I'll mount this on this piece first, and I'll add the crystals on last. Okay, let's see. That is that. The white pigment ink gets a little bit more transparent. It moves more towards transparency. It's not transparent, but it's just not quite as opaque looking as when it's freshly stamped. So that white there is a little bit more bluish in tinge, I guess. Okay, so let's get this. Let me make sure that this is pretty dry. I think it is. I'll be careful not to squish this down too hard here. Okay, looks pretty good. I say it looks pretty good in terms of I don't know, none of that kind of smeared or anything like that. It's hard to tell when the ink is heat setting. I think it might be a little bit moist in some areas. I notice I'm getting a little bit of a white ink on my fingers here. This will just be spray sealed when I'm all done, so I don't need to worry about some of that ink coming off. Just a light spray sealing, and this will be nicely set. Okay. Now, heat set it and wait for it to dry before you spray seal too. Alright, so that looks pretty cool as is. Let's go for the final touches here with a little bit of glue. This would go faster if I bought a new thing of glue, but I don't know, this is like half full, this 20-year-old bottle. I don't know if it's 20 years. It's close, I think, because I just never used glue over the years. I hardly ever glued anything down. I wasn't anti like crystals or something like that, but I don't know. I always thought it'd be cool to have like these little types of things in there, but I don't know. I kept it pretty spare in terms of three-dimensional types of embellishment. And why did I do that? I don't know. Okay, so there's 6 little dollops of glue here. And let's go in and add some crystals. I'm going to do a couple different sizes, okay, for variation. I'll add a larger one out there. There's some really large ones on here. They're in this little pack. Alright. And then we'll go for I'll go with like 2 different sizes. My favorite size is that really dinky one, but let's just try to make this one a little bit more bold in terms of that presentation. Okay, that is it. Now, I was talking in the beginning of this video describing things, but we're at the 19-minute 30. So I think this is like a 15-minute card, okay? And I took my time. I wasn't kind of speeding along or anything like that, but okay, we have our masking type of technique, cloud in the background. We have our impressions. Impressions don't take long to do at all. Splatter painting in here. North Star creation. That's a different effect. And then we have our crystals in here. So what do we have? We have cloud, impressions, splatter painting, North Star, crystals. That's 5 different techniques on here. Now I pre-cut, my paper out beforehand, but just, gluing it down and whatnot. It's not too bad, in terms of the time expenditure. Something like this can entirely be done kind of in an assembly line. Let's say if you wanted to do a bunch of these for your Christmas card types of things now. Okay, now I mean this, the foil is kind of what makes this kind of Christmassy, but if you did it on like a matte dark blue cardstock or something like that, or, you can do this on different colors. Let's say you get like a transitional type of scrapbooking paper that has kind of a transitioning, split fountain type of sunset in the background. You can just stamp these types of things in black ink. I don't know if you would do the cloud in the background. It would depend how dark your paper is, but, put that up there, that little star, these little stars like that. I think it would look really cool too. You can do this in a photo stamping type of exercise where you're starting with a photographic background of clouds or whatnot. You can stamp that over the top of it in black ink, just regular dye-based black ink. Splatter paint, crystals, if you want to. I mean, I don't know if it'd be a daytime scene or a nighttime scene, but certainly easy to do and very quick and easy in terms of the actual process. I happen to like it on foils. Maybe we can do something like this again, but we'll do it on like copper or something like that. I think that would look kind of interesting. Whether or not we would do it in white or black, though, probably black, I think. I don't know, in terms of, I'm not sure what, I mean, if you go like that, that copper is really super light, right? But if you go like this, it's super dark. That's what makes foils so dynamic, is just the range of kind of personalities, just depending on what angle you're looking at them in and how much light is reflecting off of it too. So it's really fun stuff. Okay, so anyways, look at those little crystals up there. Aren't those fun? So fun stuff, and I think pretty dramatic in terms of the overall look. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks as always for tuning in to the Stampscapes channel.